What do you think is kind of the main motivation for Jagmeet at this point? Is it, we obviously know it's not the actual pharmacare, it's his thing. That's his thing to keep power over his party. But do you think the more of the motivation is from like to be able to take on an election? Does the NDP have any money to take on an election? Or is it the fact that Jagmeet does really want to hold on to his pension, so he's going to push this thing as long as he can? What do you think is more of the motivation from his perspective?
Yeah, I like Jagmeet has just as good of an opportunity as anybody else to rerun in his riding and continue on. He could call or pull the support tomorrow, head into an election, rerun, and still get his pension next year as long as he holds on to his seat. But the problem is I think that this confidence and supply deal has put such a distaste in so many people's mouths that the NDP don't have any footing right now. It's like, well, if we wait this out, at least we're getting something. If we hand the Conservatives a majority, we're getting nothing. Mm-hmm. You know, Pierre Poilievre is going to watch them in the very back corner and be like, good, you're getting nothing now. Like,
true. Yeah. You're going to say in that backbench and you're going to like it. That's what happened.
Yeah, like you're not getting nothing, not even an extra cup in the opposition lobby.
So I will say too, because me and Reg have talked about this time and time again, does that, like the overwhelming majority that likely could happen in the next election, does that make you nervous at all that a government could have that much control based on what we just talked about in terms of there's no recourse to impeach a government in this country?
Yes and no. I think that when you have a one-party involvement, like a majority government, they run a lot smoother because that risk of screwing up, they don't have anyone else to help them. We saw that under Harper's government, and Harper was in a minority, came back and won a majority. Yep. But everything seemed to run just a little bit smoother. I'm hoping to see smaller government because the type of government we have right now is not working effectively. The only thing that essentially worries me is that there is there's less room for them to be flexible. So, if the Conservatives were to work with the NDP or the Liberals, that you're still going to get policies that you may like. I wouldn't say that I'm concerned about a majority government, but what I am concerned about is that when you are spending the amount of money you have been spending and government is inflated to the point that it is, what is that going to look like coming in and fixing that? Yeah. So like I know they're saying right now, Conservatives are going to cut. It's like, well, I would hope a little bit because there's a whole lot happening here. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that was my thought. It was like he's going to be the austerity minister or prime minister because he's going to be inheriting such a hornet's nest and such a gong show. Like, what is he going to even do? Like, he's not going to have the capital to even do anything because the debt servicing levels are so high right now that it's going to be eating up all of their extra tax dollars just to service the debt. And so I think it's going to be a lot of just trying to undo the Trudeau era policies that have been so detrimental to this country's fiscal policy. So I totally agree with that. It's like, what can he even do? And so my concern is that I think that people are going to see him come into power. He's going to cut everything everywhere. And they're going to go, yep, exactly what Trudeau said he was going to do. He came in here and cut everything. But I think that it's going to be the only thing that he's going to be able to do in order to keep this country above water. Otherwise, I think our ship is sunk. Because that is the one thing from the Putin interview that I thought was actually accurate, was when he was talking about, he's like, why are you sending money? Why are you sending weapons? Why are you doing all these things in foreign countries? He's like, when your own country is so far indebted that it can't see past its own debt load. And I thought the same thing about Canada. I was like, well, that's us. You know what I mean? Like, why did we just send how many billion over to the Philippines and however many billion to Ukraine and however many billion to Israel and then to Palestine as well? Like, you know what I mean? We're just throwing so much money at everybody else. And it's like, dude, do you not see the predicament we're in right now? And so I wonder, like, is there any policies that you're thinking that he'll put through that isn't kind of that austerity kind of policy or anything that he could do potentially? Because I mean, he's talking big talk about like building all the houses and being tough on crime. And I'm just thinking, like, if you're throwing everybody in jail, that's a cost to the state as well. So Like, what are you thinking that he might be floating as his kind of gift to Canadians? Because otherwise they're going to be looking at this as, he's just cutting everything.
I don't know. I can say that I do know a couple of the people on Pierre's team, and they are brilliant. Two of the people more specifically working on policy are not overly partisan, that they're really well-rounded people.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be some really good stuff come out. Like even with the Indigenous stuff, I was like, hey, where is it? Like I'm waiting. And then I saw last week and I texted Pierre's director of policy and he's like, this has been a year in the making. And I think right there though, that's something where we have the Liberals right now that promised a national guaranteed loan program for nations, which was a conservative policy in the 2021 election, because nations are like, hey, we want to participate in resource development, oil and gas, mining, whatever it might be, because it brings wealth to our nations. And the Liberals are like, how about an emissions cap instead? And it's like, okay. But now in their fall economic statement, they promised a national guaranteed loan program. No actual programming. They just promised it. But I think with Pierre coming in, he's going to maybe put that responsibility back on Canadians that, you know what, there's not any CERB checks anymore. There's not all this extra money flowing. We're not getting grocery rebates. Like, not that saved anybody anyway.
Yeah.
But we're going to make sure there's tax credits for you. Bring back the leisure one for kids sports. I pay a ton of money in my kids' extracurriculars. That'd be huge for me. All these boutique benefits aren't helping me as a millennial paying my bills anyway. I'm not getting GST. I'm not getting all these fancy things, and even the child tax credit. When I was a single mom, yes, but now as two working adults, me and my husband get next to nothing. So it's like people are like, oh, well, he'll take that away. It's like, okay, well, I would just want lower taxes because I'm just out here trying to survive anyway.
Yes,
so,
totally.
That's exactly what I said. I was like, I'm not getting anything from the child tax credit. Like Jen and I, my wife is also named Jen, also Native. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, we were talking about the fact that like we're getting nothing from the child tax credit and we get no GST. We don't get the grocery rebate. Like we are not making enough that we're thriving or doing really well, but we're not making so little that we're actually qualifying for these programs. So I'm just like, selfishly, yeah, it doesn't matter to me if they all get cut either. But exactly like what you said, if you lower the taxes and you lower the tax burden on us, like carbon taxes and income taxes and any kind of tax, frankly, like it's going to help. It's going to put money back into our pockets so that we can afford to do the things that we want to do. We can afford to take our daughter like to go to swimming lessons and things like that, like you said, because right now it's painful and it's brutal.